Hey guys, welcome to Jerry's Live. As always, I'm your host, Amy Gardner-Dean, and today is episode JL166. We're going to be trying out some graphite and charcoal powders. It's a medium a lot of artists don't really know anything about. It's very mysterious unless you've had an illustration class. It tends to just be that kind of weird thing that you know you're going to make a mess with, so you don't bother opening it. But I assure you, and I promise you, maybe the first few times you might make a mess because there's a bit of a learning curve, but the time that this medium can save you in a pinch, or even when you're just trying to do value studies for a painting or a really, finished drawing for a competition, for just anything, the time that it can save to get those values in is well worth the few times that it's going to take to have a little bit of a mess to learn how to do it properly. So we're going to look at those today. If you're interested in any of the products that we use, and I'll say it again a little later, that I'll be showing here as we do the demo, you're going to go to the jerrysartarama.com website. You're going to type in JL166. That is the keyword that will pull up that cart. I added a couple, if you've looked at the cart before and then you're like, where are these products coming from? I added a couple different types of paper because I thought it really bore mentioning that the paper texture is going to make a lot of difference with this medium. So we're going to look at just sketch paper, we're going to look at regular heavier weight drawing paper, and then we're going to actually look at cotton charcoal paper that's got a lot more texture, so you can kind of see what it does with each. Because that's something that paper is as important as the pencils or the powders that you use when you're drawing. So, but before we get into it, I got the coolest gift in the mail, and I just had to say thank you, because if you were looking at the contest that we did, it was the, what was the Rocks of Kindness? What was the actual?
Kindness Rocks.
Kindness Rocks. See, just reverse that. So Heidi had entered the really awesome rocks that were my portrait, and she ended up making a skateboard, clearly, because you can see the skateboard in the back matches perfectly, and mounting it and making it a really awesome wall hanging and sending it to me. So I got that yesterday in the mail, and no lie, it made me a little bit teary because I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. So there's already been fights, Heidi, about where this is going to go because the crew wants to keep it in here. So it may have to split time on the set and then in my office, and if the crew gets too needy with it, it's going to go home, and that will be it. So thank you very much. It was just a really cool gift, and I appreciate it. So anyway, let's get to drawing. Okay, so I don't think we showed this elephant. I think this elephant was on just one of our drawing episodes, wasn't it?
I think it was on the after party, wasn't it?
Yeah, okay. Probably so. So, but it was drawing, and I think it might have been a drawing animals after party, now that I think about it, because we did some ink drawings, we did some charcoal drawings. This is the drawing that we actually did with graphite powder and graphite. So, do you think it'd be easier for me to hold it up for people to see? Or I'm concerned about the reflection from lights.
Yeah, it might be. Try holding it up and see. You get a lot of reflection if you can.
Yes. Okay. So, and maybe Amanda and Frida can find the after party to put on there. I didn't think about it. There we go.
Got it? Okay.
Yep, it looks good right there. But it will go into more in depth. It's the entire drawing sped up, other than the lettering that Amanda and her steady hand was kind enough to put on the artwork. But it goes into from just starting on the paper on how to do a drawing and use that as kind of a toned underground. Pull out the highlights with the eraser and all the pencil work. So you'll get to see, we're going to do some little studies today and kind of play around, but you'll get to see what this actually looks like with powder from start to finish. Now I do know on the product page for this is April. Perfect. All right. Is April. So this is my sulfur crusted cockatoo that you guys all heard when we filmed at home. but this is done on the charcoal paper actually that we are going to be playing with today. This is the graphite powder as well. So you can see another one, but it's very short. It's very condensed for putting the powder out, using it, and then doing the drawing. So, but it's really easy to achieve some very, detailed drawings without all of those values being done in pencil that will take you for forever, which if you do any illustration work and stuff like that, that's a huge plus. Anywhere you can save time but still make awesome art, that's a win. So, and these are, you don't use very much powder. And I know that when I got into this in school, they only sold the cans that are like, they're like a jar that's like 30 pounds, I think, of graphite powder, because I still have one from college and I don't even think I'm halfway through it. So these being this size is a really good thing, because you don't, a dab will do you. You'll see when we do this. So, and the nice thing about this is you don't have to try to say, with the set, we don't have them individually, which, okay, so you don't have them individually, but you get both. So you can try it for super cheap. I did not think charcoal would be what I would necessarily like, and how black this is amazing. I'd only ever really used graphite powder and like the Conte tinted powders, you know what I'm talking about, with the kind of the terracotta color and all that. So really cool. They also come with 2 little stomps, which are just those little kind of fuzzy, soft paper. Not really a tortillon, it's a stomp. It's the same on both ends. So we're going to show how you actually use those to do some of the application. You don't have to have a brush, okay? I've got some Reese charcoal pencils just so that we can show how you can sharpen an image up that you apply just with either a brush or with the tortillon stomp. And then also we're going to use the Cezanne graphite pencils so that we can do that. Okay, so I'm just going to show you if you can hit the overhead, so and then I'll kind of know where we're at for this. So this was just playing around some today with it, with some charcoal and graphite powder. Now this is on this paper, so we're not going to showcase this paper per se. Can you zoom just a tiny bit when you get a chance? I'll try to keep it away from me. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So charcoal powder, nice and black. And I'm going to put this here and we'll show it kind of just coming out on this so you can see on this page. So you can see kind of, since this is a very, very white paper, what you should expect when you're getting this. Okay. I'm going to keep charcoal on the left. It's not going to be confusing because, believe me, it's incredibly black. For this, I'm just going to put it on. It bounces like little BBs almost. If I was going, it's very much like gunpowder. If I was going to be doing this at home, I would put it in this so I can dump it right back in there after the fact, because these will go everywhere in your house. But it's easier for you to see on the paper. So the same with the graphite. Now the graphite to the eye looks lumpy. There's some, it's just because you don't want to put a bunch of stuff. You know how there's like cornstarch or different additives and something to make it so powder, like in talcum powder and stuff like that, smooth, right, Katie? For makeup purposes, there's something that kind of, you don't want that in this, because then it's going to change the way that it applies. So, so although it looks lumpy, don't worry, it's not a problem. Okay, so I'm going to take some with this, and I'm going to show you. This is very smooth paper, so you're not getting a lot of texture that can grab that. But look how black that gets really fast. I can pull it across. You can actually, with this, surprisingly, get a pretty even application. Taking the other end. I told Katie I'm going to be covered with this by the time we're done. Kind of.
We'll vacuum you off later.
Right? Dustbuster. All right. Look how nice and smooth that is. It's a little bit more silvery, like a gray, right? Almost like a Payne's gray kind of a thing. If I'm going to take it and do it like this, that's about the blackest I'm getting this with the graphite powder. Okay, which is not bad. It's a nice, you know, about a 50% value, 45, 50% value, where this is very much like your 85, 90% value, almost black. Now, if I take a brush, I'm going to do this and I'm going to dust it off. You can use any drink. Sorry.
I'm not supposed to breathe the charcoal powder.
I didn't, strangely enough. It's from all the rain we had, all the little yucky wet gets in my lungs. All right. This is, and don't shoot me. It's only because I have so many of these. This is a Kolinsky Sable brush, watercolor brush. For me, I like to use it because it's got a really long handle. So I can hold it up like this and kind of move it around, or kind of pull it almost like doing watercolor washes. It's because of the handle. If I didn't have like 3 or 4 other ones of this size, I would not use this. You can use squirrel. You can use anything that's even a synthetic, really soft, meant to be either sable or squirrel, is going to work with it. Just know, once you use this for this, you do not want to ever use it for anything else again. And you may want to dedicate some in your studio, if you want to work in both charcoal and graphite, to that medium only, because you will get a little bit of the black pull through with the graphite, just so you're aware. See how I can get a lighter with a really light touch. I can get a much lighter value than that initial. Slide that up. So see, what this does is it gives you the ability to draw a very light sketch without a lot of detail and start putting in some values where you would have to take a pencil and draw all this in, right? And you can kind of go back and add a little bit more if you want to make it darker. You can use a much smaller brush if you want. I tend to work large, so this brush is my version of a small brush. Okay, let's see how that, just so you know, my left side, don't bump into me later, Katie, because my left side's gonna powder all over me. I typically wear jeans when I do this, and I clean the eraser on the jeans and then clean the brush on the jeans and then put them in the washer. Okay, so charcoal, see how you can get that lighter value with that brush, or I can get pretty dark if I want. Isn't that nice? I mean, you can see kind of some of the dust here. You can do I'm not going to do it right now, but you can pick it up and, you know, go outside and kind of shake it off. Just flip it real quick and shake it off. I've known people that had like a dust buster type of thing that they really quick. You just don't want to touch your paper with that. There's lots of different things you can do. You just don't want to take another big brush and sweep it across it, because what's that going to do? Pick that up, right? So that gives you a lot of options. Now, so that is this smoother paper. Let's play this on these other two just so you can see the big difference in the two, and then we'll kind of set them, or the three, and we'll set them side by side. This is Strathmore, a 400 series. The other one was a 300 series. So this is a heavier weight. That was Sketch, which is it's got a much slicker kind of texture. It's a fine tooth. It's only a 50-pound paper, but it's a nice, really nice white that I like for sketching. This is got more of a cream surface, as you can see, but this is an 80-pound. Their heavy weight, I think, is 98 pounds. But this has more tooth. So we're going to take this and do the same thing. Just so we can kind of see that charcoal, again, is on the left. The graphite is on the right. I don't know why I'm trying to dump more out, because there's plenty. And I can keep these separate, because one is really black here. One's a lot grayer here, so I know this is my charcoal. Now that's got more texture, so it's grabbing it a little differently. So I would need to practice with that. just to know kind of where is that, with that push and pull of it, what do I need to do to get that even? Okay, you can see my first drag kind of made a line there. So I would need to either use this and kind of work over it with some different angles to kind of get rid of, see, because that will, but that's kind of nice because you could use that as a tool even to draw and get some very light, soft lines. This is why you always want to practice with a new sketchbook. And I know people think that's the most insane thing. Don't wait till you're doing a finished drawing to be breaking out the sketchbook for the first time, because it may not play well with your pencils or whatever dry media you're using at all. Okay, so again, let's take this and push this. I like how that feels with the... Now when I do this, I tend to use like that, the elephant is done on Stonehenge. No, it's done on Reeves BFK, which is a printmaking paper. So that's cotton and it's sized a little bit to be able to accept prints. So it takes this very differently than even these do. So this is the first time I'm, other than experimenting with just kind of seeing how dark I was going to need to make it for this experimenting, really kind of pulling and pushing this around the page so you can get some nice lights, some darker darks. But see how I can use it almost like paint? I mean, you could take your whole work and actually paint it in like that with values and then pick it back up with an eraser. And what we're going to do when we're done with all these, we're going to go back in with an eraser over these darker parts and lighter parts and see how it picks up on each of the papers, because you're going to need to know that too. If you go over something that's dark, or, you know, accidentally that's supposed to be light with dark, you are going to need to know how it actually comes out from that, how it lifts. See, that's nice. You can make, actually, I think, a nice lighter gray with this paper than with the smoother paper, a little bit more even. Okay, so now, this over here, let's try that Strathmore charcoal. This has a very pronounced grain. If you've ever used the My Tints paper or the Fabriano Tizzano paper, it's like a little bit softer version of that. So it's got some good texture. And this is the paper that the portrait of my bird is actually done on. And I know this seems like I'm using a lot. I just would rather have more out here than not enough, and it's fine.
Don't sneeze.
No. That would be, I will say that I had dusty nostrils earlier. But it was because I took it outside and one of the dogs bumped me. As I was going dumping it and it went. And it's a good thing I washed my face because I had fingerprints all over me as well, which I'm sure I will by the end of this. See, you can make like super black with that charcoal. Look at that. That's definitely our blackest black. Because that texture grabs, it's going to be a lot harder with this paper to get those lighter values, because that's with just a little bit on there, and look how dark that is. So, which is great. If you want dark darks, perfect. If you don't, maybe this isn't your paper. Okay, and this is the graphite. This is definitely the darkest of any of the graphite ones. Look at that. I can really push that into that texture nice. Let's see how you can kind of get a lighter value. That's not so bad. So now we know how both of those perform. So let's take the brush. I know how this works with graphite because it makes a really nice, you can make this super uniform with a brush.
Somebody on Facebook was asking if this is a better medium for larger works.
Yes, because if you're doing perfect, good question. Is this good for large? I mean, this is good for any of them that you need to save some time on. But for larger works, I mean, the elephant and the bird are not huge, but I mean, they're sizable. If you're going to be doing something on big pieces of paper, like Canson edition size paper or something like that, this is like your new best friend. It makes such a difference. And if you do it right, it's very difficult to tell that you use powder. because you can still get nice lines in there if you tend to draw in a kind of with a drawing, stroke, a lot of pencil, movement, a lot of action in it. Or if you tend to blend too, I mean, nobody's ever going to know because it's working right along with it. So see this one, I think that heavyweight kind of takes a little bit nicer. The texture, it takes a little longer for it to grab. Sorry about that. But just because of that very pronounced texture. But it works for that too. So you can actually use it to paint paint like strokes.
Dusty nostrils. Lisa would like to know if there are health concerns from airborne particles.
I would say, especially since we have all these masks around us now, yay, you have extra masks for doing artwork, right? Because what I typically do with these, when I work on these, I make a solid ground, unless it's charcoal, and then depending on the paper, will depend on kind of, I might not use a brush like this, but I'll use something like a hockey that's this size or larger if this is bigger, and I will take it, because when you do this, I don't know if, oh yeah, they can see the dust coming up. See, it's not rising high because it's still a
heavier
particle.
dust.
It's not like a, it's still got a decent sized particle to it, but it will rise a little bit. You definitely want to turn off ceiling fans, which I did not do at first when I started working, and the air conditioning was going and the ceiling fan was on, and I dumped a little bit out, and I was like, and let's turn those off before we do anything else. So let's see, look how I can go right back over that and almost get rid of that blended line kind of in between. See how nicely that makes a gray value? And you can go in and pick some up a little bit if you need to with a kneaded eraser, or just kind of keep going over it and get it close enough where you can't see, kind of right in here you can see a little bit darker mass. That was where I dumped that powder and was kind of pouncing it to pick up with the brush. But you can really work on it with a textured paper and get it smoother. Let's see how this works with it, because I've not used the charcoal powder with this. With the texture, it does not want to play as well, I don't feel like. It is a little bit grittier of a powder in comparison, just because of the nature of the, this is wood that's been burned, right? So it's not, this isn't from like a compressed charcoal. This is probably vine charcoal that's ground up. So it's still got some of that kind of cellular wall in that thickness. But you can see, and if you wanted to make something dark, you can make that pretty dark with that brush and sweep it around. So let's try this on these others, the other two, so you can kind of see. I'm going to use this one now for the charcoal because there's charcoal in it, and that's not going to come off until I really try to wash it. This one may be my charcoal brush from now on. See how that's a little bit smoother than that other one was? Because this is a smoother paper. I can kind of make that a softer, more even gray. The goat would make this a little bit smoother if I were using that. But see how nice and smooth that is. Oh, it's like, no, that's graphite. That's the one I used for the bird, actually. I think I set it over there and then was like, it's over there. Okay, so this is the smoothest paper. This is just that sketch paper. Now, things to think about. This is only 50 pounds, so a lot of push and pull on this is going to wrinkle it fast. So either tape it down if you've got a thinner paper. Maybe take it out of that sketchbook and tape it to a drawing board. You need to, whatever you tape it to, make sure it does not have texture. If your drawing board has a pronounced wood texture, do not tape it to that because all that texture is going to show up through the paper if it's very pronounced. That works really nice on that super smooth paper.
We've got lots of questions.
Yes, go ahead.
Start asking some of
Please
them,
do,
or-
because then we'll start doing the artwork. But go ahead and ask those
Let's
while I'm finishing this.
go. Could either of these products be used over acrylic paint, like to enhance smoke coming out of a chimney?
No, you're not gonna. Okay, so it's a good question because it sounds like that would work. Using this to go over acrylic or something to do smoke or dust or fog. No. If you really wanted, the problem is, number one, if it's graphite, it's going to be shiny. Okay. Charcoal is going to get really black if you add it. Like if you put it in a medium and did that, you're better off making a wash with an acrylic, like an airbrush medium or something like that, with a little bit of color tinting it, and then building them up a little bit darker at a time. Just in the certain sections, you want it a little darker, a little darker, a little darker. So think of it more as a wash, but using some sort of, not thin it with water, because we know that breaks our acrylic bonds down. Use an acrylic medium if you're going to want to do that. Now, and my son learned this the hard way. He is a fan of charcoal, and because he likes that really immediate blackness. Did an oil painting, went back over it, and enhanced some areas without thinking about it. He didn't realize that you needed an oil impregnated charcoal instead of just a charcoal stick. Has these really beautiful darks, and this giant painting, it's like 5 feet by 6 feet, was going to take it off the stretchers to roll it up to move, and I was like, you need to stick that down because that dust is going to go everywhere. And he had such a time dealing with it. I think he ended up just moving it whole, but using an oil medium and kind of going over it to fix that charcoal. So you don't want, with drawing mediums, unless it's like an oil impregnated pencil, like Ophelia had us using the Jerry's Jumbo Black when she was here last. You want these things to be under paintings. You don't want them to be on top of paintings unless you've done a whole lot of experimentation with how to set them and things like that. I'm not saying there's not a possible way. I'm saying if you're asking this question, you're probably not ready for what the answer is. If that makes any sense. So dry mediums are best on the bottom, not on the top. Same goes for pastels. I know people use pastels on top of acrylic and oil paintings a lot that they're not going to put under glass. Guess what's going to happen to that eventually, right? So, yep.
Bye. Audrey would like to know, how do you get the extra off the paper without smearing it everywhere?
I have a bucket under here. Okay, so.
Is it heavy? Yeah.
Ta-da.
Ta-da!
Just you need to take it and not like invert it, because if there's heavier particles, they're going to slide. But you just take it and flip it and then kind of shake it. So with a full sketchbook with very few pieces taken out, it was a little harder to hold on to. But now it's to the point of where there's just a little bit. Then outside, I recommend you can kind of, and then you don't have any of those particles anymore. Okay. So see, I got rid of that by just flipping it and inverting it, letting the big particles go off. Then I blew the excess off. We need to very quickly look and see how it erases, right? Mm-hmm. So why don't we do what Audrey asked and do this with all these. I'm going to lift up my face and be like,
Yep.
like a charcoal jack-o'-lantern. Okay. All right, it did not go in my throat. That was hyperbole. Okay, so let's take these and see. You can see I already had crumbles down here at the bottom on this one, so those are on there because there were already crumbles from my arm. Okay, So this is our first paper. I've got the Marie's. You can use a number of different types of erasers, okay? The thing to keep in mind is, especially with the charcoal, these gum up super quick. So when you make a pass, you may have to clean your eraser off before you use it again. This one was one that I was using. You can see it's still kind of gooky a little bit. Also, you've got hard, crisp lines on your eraser, right? You may need to keep extras so that as you're working, if you need a hard, crisp line and you're starting to wear them down, you've got another one to go to next, okay? So graphite is here. See, I can get a pretty good, with that paper being so slick, that really goes back to that almost bluish white, doesn't it? Over here where there's the, okay, that's saturated with. I use my apron. Now in the kit that the stomps and everything come in, there's a sanding pad, so you can sand those off. You can do that with the eraser, but it's going to gum up your sanding pad, so I wouldn't just have like canvas jeans or canvas apron is perfect for that. So, I mean, that was one swipe. And you can do that with the eraser, okay? So charcoal might be a little bit trickier. Take these pictures out of here. All right, so the lighter part that we did here, that comes up really clean on that. So that's a nice. Let's go in deep. Look at that. So I could actually take this and put that ground down if I wanted something really black and go right back to the white. So you don't have to buy black paper and then use white, either white charcoal or white pastel or things like that. You can make your own custom black thing that you can draw back into with a good quality eraser, okay? Some of the vinyl ones I feel don't work as well depending on the brand. I like this Marie's one because it's like a vinyl and a gum eraser had a baby. And it's much more attractive than either one is to me. So,
my feelings on the gummy one.
It just does a really, really nice job of cleaning stuff up. So that's just the basic sketch paper. Just that slick, smooth surface. Really lifts that up. Drawing paper's here. Let's try that. I mean, that's perfect. So this is the drawing paper. That's the 80 pound. Nice. Look at that. That's crazy. Try through the darkest dark. That's just getting kind of dark. That still lifts.
That's really
completely. Another eraser would not do that. Now, stick erasers will help sometimes, but again, depends on the brand that makes the little white vinyl in the stick eraser. It needs to be a slightly softer one than a super hard one, because the hard one will just buff this and make it shiny and it will stay dark. All right, so we got those two. Let's do this paper. And I know for a fact, because of the texture, this does not lift as well from the bird drawing. It lifts pretty well. It's still got a little bit of tint to it. This is going to be the trick. You see, that's got a little bit of dark still there, doesn't it? Okay, you can still see the charcoal there. This is cotton paper, okay? This is their 500 series. I would not want to rub more than a couple times across that, because you're going to start lifting the paper itself. Now this is cotton, so it's going to hold up better than either of those other two for erasing multiple times. But it can only take so much. The more abrasion, you know, it's just like you getting a skinned knee. Carpet might give it that kind of red, but you can, the concrete is not going to be the same, right? So think of it as just each time you're abrading it, you want to limit it to one pass, 2 passes if you can. All right. Are there any other questions? Because we'll start just monkeying with okay. While they're doing, which paper, should we just do the drawing paper? Because most people have some sort of kind of mid-range weight drawing paper, don't you think?
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't going to have this charcoal paper type of stuff, but I wanted them to see what the differences were. Go ahead and start the questions, and I'll start a little
Going back to the application of both of them,
Yes.
I have 2 questions on that.
Okay.
Heather Bryant says, I feel like I can control the graphite powder unlike she can control the charcoal powder. Is there a difference in the weight of them in terms of application, etc.?
I agree that the graphite powder, with what she's saying, that the graphite powder is much easier to control. However, we've seen how you cannot make it as dark. So what you really need to do is focus on what one you need for what artwork you're working on, and try to play with both enough where you've got some kind of average mastery of them, because although this might be perfect, and the nice thing about this is, okay, so it's easier. It doesn't tend to have kind of as the heavier particles. I can take this and go from here, and this is a 6B, and I can start adding some nice shadow, and I can start making it darker, right? So that gave me a really nice, you know, medium tone, so I didn't have to sit and do that lightly with a lighter pencil in case I didn't want it that dark, and you know, more and more and more, because the thing about the powder as the pencil is this is scruffing up the surface each time. It's actually, you know, roughing it up to pull off that graphite to make that mark. And it's the same with a charcoal pencil too. But this is much smoother than this is. So it's just, that's going to be that little bit smoother application, a little bit more play with the paper. But again, if you want dark, that's really nice dark. So, and the same with this. You can take the pencils, you know, and go much darker along there. But look, that is actually almost a little bit darker than that from the angle that I'm at, because I can see that this is sitting on the surface where that's kind of worked into the texture a little bit. So you can get a lot of extra time, you know, sitting and doing this to get at that same darkness. That took me done, right? Yes.
Lots of people are asking, can you use them both in the same artwork? Can you layer them over each other, one under the other? Can you mix them? Do they play well?
You could use them in the same artwork, but think of it as using warm and cool in painting. You're using 2 very different value medias. It might be better because, and this at different angles with graphite, you know how when you take a pencil, especially like a 2B pencil as a kid, and you turn it on its side and you do that, and when you turn it this angle, it's really dark and it looks really dark. You turn it this angle and it's like super shiny and reflects the light. It's going to reflect light some, okay? The powder, not so much, but the more applications, see that pencil? See how there's that shine to it? Well, the heavier you apply that powder though, see, I can even see a little bit of sheen on the powder itself. So if that's something that is desirable to you, knock yourself out. The biggest issue with this powder is once you start filling a paper texture like this that only has so much that it's going to attach, everything else that you put on it is just going to sit there and then either move when you bump it. It's going to be picked up by your pencils or your charcoal pencils as you're drawing through it. And it will even start dusting all over your hands. So it's okay to use both of these together, but that's why you want to play with this. You would want to be very aware of how much more can I physically put over this where it's still going to take. If I put too much powder, the pencil might not stick to it. There might not be enough tooth left for the pencil. Now, is it going to hold more than the plain sketch? Yes. So each one, and you know, if you want to do both and you want to have a lot of texture to keep building layers with pencils and powder, that charcoal one is going to be your better bet because it's got all that lovely texture and little kind of divots to grab and hold and snuggle all your pigment that you're putting down or your dust that you're putting down. But there's always just like any pastel artist knows, there's always a point where it stops. So, and it's the same with dry media. So just keep that in mind. Play with it and see. Also, the more stuff that you layer with this, the less you're going to be able to erase through it. And pencils don't erase as cleanly as the powder.
Somebody else was asking that about why graphite, like transfer paper, doesn't erase like that.
Because it's been bonded to it in a specific way so that it sticks to it with transfer paper.
And then lots of people asking about fixing it. Workable, final, somebody who, Patricia was taught to use an atomizer with alcohol to do a final fix. Somebody mentioned hairspray.
Hairspray is usually not good because there's acids and stuff that can eat your paper. Okay, it's not an art supply, it's a hair fixative. And you're putting it on your hair and then you're hopefully washing it out at the end of the day so that nobody gets near you with a match and lights you up. Which we could probably do to Katie if it was Katie likes some hair products. So
This is just my natural
yes.
hair.
So keep in mind that it's not designed to work with paper and be acid free long term, be archival long term. So you want to use an actual artist's fixative, okay? Workable fixative really is kind of it's a finished fixative for most pencil and stuff. It's called workable for other things like pastel and stuff, where you start getting to the point of where those layers and the layers and layers start wanting to not stick to each other. It sprays it and it kind of puts a layer on so it's got something else to grab to. The same with pencils. Sometimes you can push your layers if your pencil drawing is starting to, things to start sticking because you've got a lot of graphite. Sometimes you can use that workable fixative and kind of stick it and then go a little bit, a couple more levels up. I would think that alcohol is not going to do anything because if you're putting alcohol on it, alcohol evaporates. It's put in some of the fixatives like the oil pastel fixatives and the pastel fixatives with resin because it needs the alcohol as the vehicle to get out of the spray can and onto it, and then the alcohol evaporates and leaves the resin, right? So, but straight alcohol is not going to do anything but kind of moisten it and stick it together, and then once it evaporates, there's a chance that could move around again. Okay?
Then the next questions are actually about how you're going to be working the drawing. Carol would like to know, are you going to be doing the darks first and then go to lights, like working in acrylics? Or are you going to be going light to dark as like with acrylics?
I think that we could work with kind of some of both, to be quite honest. Let's, do we want to do that little chest piece? How much time do we have? That's probably gonna, oh, we're getting close. So let's do something that's more simple. How about this creepy guy? Didn't this remind you of Robert King's little alien guys that he used to do? I saw that and I was like, it's like the little guys. There's an eye, but we don't have enough time to do that. Okay, so I'm gonna put this kind of, and that's not gonna work over here. Okay. So what do you think?
Put them side by side.
Charcoal or, okay. Charcoal or graphite?
Left hand is pretty dark.
The little dude? Mm-hmm. This is still not giving us a lot of room. Okay. Yeah, come out just a tad. Perfect. Okay. All right. Then I can put him to the side. All right. So let's try the charcoal. Why not? I've not worked a lot in it, so that might be kind of a fun thing to try. I am going to put this down in pencil just so I can see kind of a, you know what, do we really need maybe the pencil for the head and hands? He's got little weird shoulders. I'm just doing this because this was a great black and white image. I'm sorry if it's creepy. I'm sure it's all just done with a filter. Not a real alien, so no aliens were harmed in the making of this.
Looks like charcoal is the consensus.
Okay, well, yeah, I think it'll be more kind of fun as we see. They're not alien hands, so all right. There's a palm. And the fingers aren't long. Okay. So, and then we've got kind of this nice little circle going around. Can we see? Yeah, we can see that all. Okay.
This is the Strathmore drawing paper, the Strathmore 400?
This is the 400, yes, ma'am. Okay. The 400 series, now there's a drawing and a heavyweight. This is the regular drawing, and it is 80 pounds. Okay. All right. So, remember when I said the lids? Let's take the lid. We're covering the graphite. Bye-bye, Mr. Graphite. We don't want you involved in the middle of this. Okay. I'm going to do this so we've got a little...
Can you answer an unrelated question while you're...
Oh, sure.
It may. Casey asked, you'll like this one. Can you use this to create your own printmaking ink with linseed oil and turpentine?
Okay, so the thing with this being ink, you probably could, but the problem is because it's larger particles, it might not...
Might be chunky.
It's going to probably be too chunky. That's going to be my guess. Doesn't mean you can't take it and knock yourself out trying. It's worth a shot, right? We're not going to get like super worried about this being like absolutely perfect. I'm going to come back and make him darker as we go. I'm just trying to get some of the... You can ask other questions if you want, if you've got them while we're doing this. That's fine. With the hands, I think what I'm going to do, because it's pretty light in between them, so I'm going to do my best to kind of add them on, and then I'm going to come back and use the eraser. Cheating.
That's fine.
Well, don't you think that that would be...
Technique.
Don't you think that that would be the better... The better way to get it like a lot more detailed than this is gonna. If I had a small brush, that would be perfect for this. You know, like a little size. I mean, this is like an 8 or a 10. I can't. 8. So if I had, yeah, a small one, that would work. I mean, that's something you can do with like your extra old brushes when they start kind of, because natural hair brushes over time will wear out. They don't have the same point to them. They don't have the same spring to them over time, just especially if you've used them in solvents or anything like that for, you know, especially a little one, like lettering or something on a painting. So you can always take them and use them for this, and they can still have some life and be happy. Now with this part, the darker parts, because remember when we looked at the brush, you really had to add a lot like this. I'm gonna really add. I might go in here and take that, the stomp, and go in and really push it in the areas that I want it to be super black, because the hair doesn't want to push it kind of into the fiber as much as the stomp is going to. So that's something that you could definitely do. Well, let's put this over here. This is like dust, so it's... And these are very black. So what I might be tempted to do, since this is a lot more of a detailed area, rather than make it super black where it might not erase as easy, I might come back in with my pencil and my charcoal pencil. So we'll do that in just a minute. Let's try to get some of the this is darker in here. does look like a little alien.
Everybody's saying the theme from the X-Files.
Yeah.
Is playing in their heads.
I loved that show.
Somebody was asking about the Marie's eraser. Do we know what it's made of?
Good question.
It's not on the, so it's not listed as part of the description on the website.
No. It's not. It's some sort of vinyl hybrid, because you can tell when you're kind of compressing it that it's got that same feel as the white vinyl. It's just softer. The white vinyl tends to be a much firmer. So, I mean, vinyl erasers are, I'm sure, a petroleum product. So it's a proprietary blend. Probably. So.
They don't want to tell their secret.
No, because there's no other erasers like it. So it's not something that I think that they're probably going to want to divulge.
And then, not another question, but
sure.
Cindy's 60th birthday is tomorrow.
Yes, it is. Happy birthday, Cynthia Lemieux. She was 60, really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not telling her to, like, go look like you're 60, but because she doesn't. Don't do that. But bottle whatever is working and pass it on down to the rest of us, because we want some of that. And on that note, too, next week we're doing the timed drawing game, people. Everybody has to play. Just get a sketchbook and any pencil in your house if you want to use the same set that I'm using. Check the website. Type in JL167. Is it 6? Yeah. And that's what I will be using for it. But you want to participate because it's going to be really quick, zany fun for seeing how fast you can just, lay out some quick sketches. And I think I'm going to let Frida, or I mean, I guess the three of you guys could pick the images from Pixabay. They just have to be more simple, but you guys can pick.
Oh, that's fun.
What do you think? How about you pick 15 images and I can take 2 passes?
Okay.
Don't you think? And then, so we'll have no idea what's coming. And you're like, oh yeah, that would be fun, but I just don't want to do it. It's for my birthday. Humor me. Don't make Amy whine. Because I'm really good at it. Right, Katie? They don't want to know. Okay, so we've got our little guy. All right, so some of this stuff in between's way smoother, so I'm going to try to kind of... I can come back with my darker, go in between. Who was it that asked about whether the graphite would work with it? Do we want to try a little bit of graphite with it?
Right? See? We had a couple people asking about it.
We can do that in the in this kind of shadier part. Let's get rid of some of this excess charcoal first, so we don't have like that dust coming up with the other dust. But see how even with that big brush, I could get the little fingers of the little guy, right? I mean, you can draw with a brush in the thing. Okay, so let's knock some of this out. Let's put some of the graphite. Move him down. Graphite, where are you? Ooh, I'm getting achy. Okay. All right. I'm going to take this, and hopefully we've got enough. I would always have an extra piece of paper over somewhere where you can kind of, I'm hitting it down here, just kind of smoothing it into the brush. I would do it on a separate sheet. Ooh, that's nice. making sure it's not too chunky. I'm not pulling too much over as I do this. This has gotten a little darker than I would want up by his head. So let's see if we can pull a little bit of this back out and kind of, I'm not sure if we'll be able to kind of blend that back in, just since that's very white. Let's see if we can do this, and then we'll try bringing some powder back into it, but we might have lost our flutzy with that. I kind of like it. Oh, now I can pick up a little bit and kind of soften it. So that's a little problematic, but you could hit that with a with either a pencil or something else. Okay, so fingers, we want those to be a little more crisp, right? Since this paper is a little bit more slick, this might be where one of those ones that has the that's like a stick eraser might be kind of nice, just to give it a little bit more. I mean, that's okay. We don't. If you could,
sitting right there.
there might be one over there by the paint where I've got kind of those drawing supplies over towards the wall of paint. Seems like I had one over there before, but who knows?
All these erasers, you would think.
It's probably because I keep them all together because they roll off so easily.
They just vary out. Well, and they look like pens, so.
Yes, they do. Okay, I'm going to take this side and just do that because it's kind of eerie and weird. I'm using this as the template. I'm kind of experimenting and making it, trying to make it look a little bit more alien than he does. He or she. All right, so I'm going to take, to kind of play with that where we've kind of erased it, I'm going to do this because it kind of looks like it's got some little light weird things in there, and that'll kind of help add to the eeriness of it, and then we'll go back and kind of soften it again.
Monica said, watching you has given me more confidence on trying charcoal and graphite more.
Good. Thank
Love
you.
that.
All right, so we got that, and then we can use the Marie's, let's see, for the soft, because it's extra soft. That's what we want. Okay, and then with this, I don't have to make specific. I'm just gonna, where I want it to be dark, I'm gonna scribble. Because it's already kind of in there, right? The drawing doesn't have to be, especially with something like this. I like the eraser texture, and I like the texture for this. I'm gonna get a little more careful in these hands. Thank you for saying that nice thing.
I love that.
I do too. What, this little weird guy?
No, that it gives her more confidence.
That's, yes, that's very awesome. It's not, the problem is if you don't see somebody do something first and you're not sure, and there's not, you know, even on YouTube videos, sometimes it's so hard to follow people, or they have stuff set up in advance so you don't see any of that part. You don't, that practicing with paper, that type of stuff is invaluable, guys, because that's something a lot of people don't show you. So they're just using a paper, so you just don't, you might not stop to think, hey, do the papers I have, would those work with that? And then they are an epic fail, right? So it's just, let's see, these little hands are crisper, aren't they? So it's really important to try all the stuff. That starts on the step to mastery, or just even just a comfortability with it. You don't have to necessarily feel like everything you do from now on is what you're going to have to do in that medium, but just it makes you comfortable enough to keep trying. That's the important part. That's what we want to do with this. Okay, so there's that. Then you can go back up in here and really highlight some of that darker dark. You could go back in with the brush even and do that, but this is kind of a good way to see how this will work with just a pencil. And you can take that and I could have done that at any time with his body too if I wanted to really try to get some of these darks darker, but I'm not this is my uncomfortability, is I don't like using stomps. It's just, to me, it's harder to control things, and I don't like stuff that looks smeary, so I prefer the lines. Now, up in here, where it's starting to get kind of thicker and harder, I could go back in with that eraser and then take this and pull some of that stuff back down. Okay. Soften those little areas that we did where his fingers, so they don't look quite so erased. There we go. See how that kind of gives that kind of an eerie glow enough from the eraser, but not so much where it's as outlined, right? Does that help? Now, if we were doing this in graphite, this would be so much less dark. You'd be able to control those values in between much easier. It would go slower though, because this has that really nice dark really fast and up front, right? In here, maybe I was a little heavy-handed because you can see that this is further back. It's a little softer. I've got so much on my finger. It's like, oh, what's that? I'm drawing. That was me. Okay. But it at least gives you the idea of exactly what you can do with this, guys. Any last questions before we sign off? It's been a quick hour of fun. A dirty hour, but a quick hour nonetheless. Now you can wear gloves. Okay, that's something that's easy. Gloves, and then, oh yeah, it's gonna be everywhere. This is shiny. I can see the graphite. Gloves, and just even using like an alcohol spray and rinsing the gloves off gets it off really easy. I don't have a very good tactile feel if I've got gloves on, so it's, and let's face it, I know that I'm messy anyway, so I'm just used to it by now. Put this away before I do something and knock it down without realizing the lid's not on. If there's any last questions, we'll take them. Again, to look for the powders and find them easily, some of the other tools that we've used, jerrysartarama.com. Type in keyword JL166, like this episode, JL166, to enter in the search bar. That will pull up the list of this. Also, on either platform, Facebook or YouTube, there's always a document attached. You can open kind of the description up. It will give you the document. You can click on that, and that will actually take you to the paper document of that, as well as 2 links to all of the shows that we've done now. 166 shows over, what, 3 years now? What, or 4? Is it 4?
Maybe 4.
This is the 4th.
I have no idea.
Holy crap. No, because I think we started in 2017. Doesn't that sound right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
I can look.
I think that's right. So there's lots of drawing and painting and guest stars and all sorts of just fun stuff, and an education where I will shake my finger at you guaranteed along the way. So, and those are the good ones, because you're going to learn something. You might not have fun, but you'll learn it.
First show was February 14th, 2017.
So there.
You've been on a journey with us for
yes,
a while.
if you need to brush up on some art skills, we can keep you busy for a few months with all those episodes. So, all right, timed drawing episode next week. This 5:30 to 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Pour yourself a drink or a hot cup of tea or something stronger. I might bring something stronger if it's my birthday and I'm gonna do that.
I have one more question.
Okay.
Back to the, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure they get it. They're asking if any of these come in other colors besides the black, like sepia or anything else.
The SoHo ones, no. Other manufacturers, yes. Cretacolor does the sepia and like a terracotta color, right? Or sanguine, I think is what they call it. Which I never know how to say, and it sounds like some sort of weird drink. But those do have those colors, so you can use like Conte crayons and things like that, or even like the Jerry's Jumbo Jet oil impregnated charcoal colors. Those would be great. Just remember that those are oil impregnated, so when you go to erase them, they're not going to be as effective. And again, you would want to play with those because those colors might not erase very well. You just don't know. So always test, test, test. And then the only really bad thing about those, if you want to get started with this to try, I really recommend these, because then if you don't like it, this is all you've bought. And it's like, what, $7 or $8 for the whole set of two that will last a long time. We've been using these all around the studio, and these are still 2/3 full. So, where the big jugs, the big jars, I think are in the $20 range. So,
Bad.
huh?
Not bad.
No, it's not. But it's just like, if you use it and then it doesn't erase well, or you were like, oh, I'm not as big on that color, that's a lot of money that you've just tried. And you could practice with these, you know, first and see what you think. But again, if you know that you use those colors a lot and you feel pretty confident that this is going to be your jam, then you'll have enough for forever. Or giant artworks. Whichever comes first.
Bree said $5.99 for the drawing powder. That's it.
Okay, so yes. So all you need are, you know, paper and a charcoal pencil and a graphite pencil. And some sort of natural brushes. And again, you can use any natural brushes you have that you just want to then devote only to these. So, which this is apparently going to be my charcoal brush now because I used it in charcoal. But that's okay. I kind of like that. All right. Contest winners. That was what you're pointing at, right? Mm-hmm. This, we are going to have to get a new canvas for this table because this is really,
I think
it's
we know
silver.
where to get some.
Yeah, it's silver. All right, so, oh, thank you. I would not have got that. If you've watched our show a lot, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of cats because of a tragic accident that hurt my shoulder.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Correct terminology. Boogered up your shoulder.
Yeah, no, I'm just, feral cats and me are not friends. So, we're, you know, I mean, that's not, neither here nor there. This was the most delightful group of paintings to look through so far. Even more so than the dog ones. And that really is hard for me to say. It hurts me. I said last week something about tips for how to photograph these. I am here to tell you there were literally probably 20 to 30 artworks I really wanted to consider for this contest, but your photos were out of focus. 2 of them looked like lovely photos, but they were out of focus and had a huge watermark on them. These aren't high enough resolutions where anybody is going to steal these guys. So if you want to be considered for the contest, you may want to take a watermark off. And it's not helpful to have your whole name plastered across it because it's just, we're supposed to be picking on the artwork, not on any names. Mm-hmm. So FYI. But please, and I know I am guilty of it as anybody else, is if I don't have my reading glasses on and I'm like taking pictures with my phone, I'm like, that photo's the best photo I've ever taken. And then I go back to it and I was like, this is not even in focus. What the heck? Double check your photos before you send them in because, again, so many really nice artworks, I'm sure, but they were a little fuzzy, so you just couldn't tell. And also cropping. Your phone does cropping. Please crop them because then the whole artwork is enlarged in it. It's just a much cleaner presentation, much easier for us to see it and love it. So, all right. So this is, this was supposed to be catitude, right? If you have ever owned a cat, number 3 is your catitude. This was just, this made me giggle out loud. It was fantastic. Cats in the blinds, cats peeking up over the table. I used to have a black cat named Biff that always looked at you very accusatorily, and I would swear that they had seen him. That is Dottie the Akistogram from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 3rd place. Congratulations. You've won yourself a gift card. And are these, was your kitty one the number 1? I can't remember which one. 2. Okay. I just didn't want to. Okay. No, because I was trying to keep them from getting dirty. And
Kitty with the green background.
all right.
Yes.
Number 2.
Not actually my kitty. Just
No.
My kitty's long
No,
lost
but
twin.
this looks just like Katie's cat. What is your cat's name?
Lumpy. Lumpy.
Lumpy.
Space Princess.
This looks just like Lumpy Space Princess. This is Cameron Hampton of Madison, Georgia. The brushwork in this, or maybe it's pastel. Is it pastel?
I don't know.
Brushwork. It's beautiful lines. That just some great lines. But that in this little moment with those feet, where you have your cat and they're kind of like look like a little ballerina that didn't make it past the 2nd class, kind of thing. And there's a little tooth. It's just so great. Shadows in the eyes, perfect. Congratulations, Cameron Hampton. And number 1. Okay, we talk about dramatic cropping when we've talked about composition. We talk about color schemes being really strong and important. Sarah, is it Gilbert or Gillert? One of the two, of Toma, Wisconsin, has paid attention to all those. Probably already knew it and just is here for the contest. I don't know. But look, we've got orange and blue. We've got complementary colors, and the shadows and the eyes, and just the attitude, and like, go away, I am trying to take a nap, you horrible human. That is catitude right there. But there were some fantastic ones. There was a Persian one that I was just like in love with. Just so many great cat things, and just some very whimsical, like wild colors and stuff. You guys all like pulled out all the stops for this. This was fantastic. Congratulations to all of you. I wish there was like a participation trophy for all of you.
I know,
Because
it was
this was the best contest. Thank you guys for like making this a joy to look through, because it was. So, all right, next week, timed drawing. Please play. It's going to be wacky. It's going to be zany. I have never sworn on the show. That show is going to try it, I think, because I'm not going to know what is coming next, and we're just going to have to draw it. So, and you don't have to show anybody your drawings. You just have to show up and have some fun with us, okay? So take care of yourselves. Stay well. We'll see you next week.